5 seconds of silence. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Loot Bros podcast. My name is Resident Maticon with... Oh, wait, no, that's not that show, is it? It's just we've been recording with all these other guests in the background that it's just been very weird. No, this is the Trophy Horrors podcast. This is episode 625. And I am Matt. And with me, as always, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Alex. How you doing?
Well, I thought for a second there I was going to get a week off. I was like, oh, sweet, I showed up to the wrong recording. But I also, anytime I see someone, because, there's that t-shirt that says man, the myth, the legend. Anytime I see someone out in public with that, I want to go be like, you're a fucking phony. Give me that shirt.
You should. Do the old hockey swing over. Just pull it over his head. Just start uppercutting.
Dude, I've seen enough of the Mighty Ducks. They used to do that. Pull the jersey over their head, start punching them in the stomach. I know the drill.
Absolutely. With us always is Yield. He brings the awesome.
Well, I'm better than I was Friday, so we'll start with that.
I know you've been feeling a little bit under the weather, so I appreciate you making the show tonight.
Man, Friday kicked my butt.
Wasn't the vid, was it?
No.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't the vid.
And for I guess it's the third week in a row we've now had a guest on, and returning, which is why I kind of alluded to the whole Loot Bros thing, Resident Darrell. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
It is a Sunday night. We're recording with you, so I consider it a win.
I'm sorry.
Just get off the show now. So we got a packed show tonight. We're going to get started because we will be going over the Summer Games Fest that aired this past Friday, I think it was. I've lost track of the days. So before we get into that, we're going to go into the updated trophy counts. I'm hoping these numbers are updated. If not, I don't care. Tricky Mick is level 908 with 30,619 trophies and 847 platinums. Alex, your trophy, sir?
Level 503, total trophy count of 9,808 with a platinum count of 170 in 169 games. Yes, folks, if you are a avid listener of Trophy Horrors, and why the hell aren't you? That's a new platinum for me.
Congrats. Yield?
Yeah, it's been a bit. It's been a bit since that Helldivers 2 platinum, but I'm taking the number up one.
Level 511 with a trophy count of 10228 and a new platinum count of 190. I couldn't let Alex outdo me this weekend.
Good job there.
All of last year, I beat you in plats last year, but this year you're easily going to take the trophy. Me versus you, because I can't keep up that pace anymore. I can't do another 30, 31, 32. I can't do it.
That was insane last year.
Well, when you get Twisted Metal and Twisted Metal 2 on the service, and those take like a day to platinum each, it's not hard to ratchet it up to 31.
I am staying extremely strong at level 220 with 1,311 trophies and 0 platinums. Sid is at level 890 with 27,027 trophies and 844 platinums, only 3 behind Tricky. I'm sure he can catch up very quickly. And not just catch up, but exceed, which we expect. Darrell, what are your trophies?
I am a level 729 with a total trophy count of 19,486 with a platinum count of 422. I think I've gotten 1, maybe 2 platinums since last time I was on.
Okay. And the reason why Tricky didn't show up tonight is he's got more important things to be doing. No, it's not sticking his foot in a toilet, and no, it's not crying over the Rangers. He actually is working, and we got Mr. TMNT84 in the chat, slowly getting out a message about how the Rangers suck. But, again, we're not supposed to be talking about the Rangers sucking and losing this year. Anyways,
we'll have plenty of time to do that next year.
Yeah.
For 24 to 2024-2025 season.
Well, I'm heard. So Mr. Team and T84 has to come into Twitch chat to express his opinion because I'm heard he's no longer allowed in the Trophy Horse chat for another 2 weeks or so. So there's that.
For what? What did he do?
Evidently saying the Rangers suck is bullying. So I don't know. Facebook has a thing against bullying, evidently.
It does. It does. It's funny. We got my daughter one of those Bark, one of those Samsung phones. They have like the Bark, protection and stuff built into it. And dude, every conversation she has with any human being, including me, I get a notification that she's bullying. Like everything out of her, everything she texts, everything she says. It's like constant. Like I had 39 notifications on the way to church this morning. I'm like, what is this kid doing? But I called her a turd the other day, and I got a notification that she was being bullied. So
that's right. I'm a parent. I can bully her when I want. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we're gonna keep the show on the rails here, even though I know it's not gonna happen for long. Darrell, what have you been playing this week?
Oh man, I have played a absolute ton of Resident Evil 6. I think last time I was on the show, I mentioned to you guys that I was like in a bit of a, you get those gaming ruts where you're like, I don't know what I want to play. My wife said play some Resident Evil, and that's the one I chose. And having an absolute blast. I beat Chris's campaign. I'm almost done with Leon's campaign. There's so much of that game that's like really cool and really good, and there's so much of it that's just so bad. It's such a weird bipolar disaster. But yeah, there's a little bit of charm in there. So playing some WWE 2K24, some factions mode on 24. Man, I got my shuffle my cards for the women's. Like you get like when you start factions mode, they give you like random packs of cards, and those are the wrestlers you have to use. So my male wrestlers it was fine. I had some good ones in there. The females, it was so terrible. Like they were seriously the worst potential. Give me freaking Piper Niven and Tamina. Like the freak am I going to do with that? I ain't going to win no matches with them. So just playing a little bit of that. Honestly, that's the two main games I've played in the past probably 2 weeks. Just that's been the bulk of my game time. I think I did get a platinum. I mentioned earlier I got a platinum since the last time I was on in a game called Swordbreaker. It's like a comic book style visual novel. I picked it up on the Vita years ago, and it was actually a cool little game, a little easy 1 hour platinum. But it's enjoyable. It's actually pretty solid. So I saw that it was on sale for PS4, so picked it up and gave it a shot. So knocked that platinum out. Nothing to really brag about.
Plat's is still a plat, and that's coming from me.
Hey, I agree.
Alex.
That's because Matt hates all trophies equally.
I do, yes. Gold, blondes, platinum, doesn't matter. It's all
trash. Blondes. What's wrong with the blonde trophies?
Blah for bronze. Alex, what have you been playing?
A whole lot of the exact same thing. Although I think I'm taking a break from this season of Rocket League because I'm not super keen on the rewards for the season pass they have out now, season 15. So I'm going to take a break from that live service game. I tried to jump back into Helldivers somewhat, and I saw the number of people playing, and it looks like that community is kind of like plateaued, and like it's almost like I saw in one area of the game, one of the sectors of the space, the giant galactic war, that there was 41,000 people playing, but everywhere else combined, like there had to be less than 60,000 people playing that game at once when I was on. And if you know how popular that game has been, sold over 12 million copies, all that kind of stuff, you would easily see like 3 times as many people, even a month ago playing that game. So I wonder if that game and all the like that PSN or that PlayStation Network like sign in and account you had to make they were trying to push on people, if that controversy has kind of in some way kind of killed off the community for this game. Like I said, there's still probably around 50,000-60,000 people playing when I was on, but given how many people were playing, I wonder if that community's kind of fallen off the cliff a little bit, and this is what they've got going forward. So I was a little surprised by that. They've got a new war bond coming out in about 4 days on the 13th. You know, much sooner if you're listening to this. But gonna try jump into Helldivers again since I'm taking a break from Rocket League. But really, most of my time is these days spent with Dave the Diver. I'm essentially that's my platinum trophy, it's Dave the Diver, following in the footsteps of our good friend George over there in Australia. I think George is Australian, not New Zealand. I don't know, George. It's one of the two. You know, correct me, George, if I'm wrong on that, but. Our friend BC Goatslot got the trophy before me, leading the way in the community because I think he got the trophy first before everyone. So congratulations, George, on the Dave the Diver Platinum. But yeah, I gained it this week, and now I'm just kind of fishing and running the sushi restaurant, trying to get the 3 stars on all of the cards for all of the fish in the game. I'm almost there. I still need to find one more seahorse, and then I've got to do the fish aberrations for the Dredge DLC. And then once I've got that locked up, I'm going to do the Godzilla DLC, and then probably, I know I said I was going to move on to Tunic, but I might take a right turn and do the Alan Wake DLC, the Night Springs DLC that they just released, because Remedy took away my 100%. Not my platinum, because I can't ever take that away, but it took away my 100%. And I'm sitting at a disgusting 83% right now, and I got to fix that. So I'll probably jump into the Night Springs DLC once I am done with Dave the Diver. So that is what I've been playing. New Platinum and trying to get back into the Helldivers groove.
Excellent. Yield, sir, what have you been playing?
I've been playing some Tunic. I've played a little bit of Helldivers just to get my medal count up for the new War Bond that's going to be dropping. I've been playing some Monster Hunter World, which I think if I played RPGs more, I wouldn't be as frustrated with the game. But I'm playing through the game with Homer Gets Stuffed and Prepare to Die or Scum, which helps out a ton because otherwise I'd have just moved on from the game. And then I've also been playing Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which is my latest platinum.
It's a pretty decent game.
I think it's probably one of the best games I've played lately.
Yeah, I like the voice acting in it's really good. It's a really neat little story. I think that they patched in years ago like faster running, but it's still mega slow.
Oh yeah, it's slow. It's not like you can sprint through the game, but I really like the story. I thought it was really good.
That came out around the same time, around the same era as games like What Remains of Edith Finch and Gone Home, and those types of games like solidified that era of gaming. And it's great storytelling, great not demonstration, what the hell's the word I'm looking, presentation, that's what I'm looking.
Presentation.
Thank you. Yep, got there half a second. And going back to Monster Hunter World, because I'm gonna have to touch on this, but if you need tips, things like that, let me know. Question is, what weapon are you playing? Which is weird because I'm wearing my Monster Hunter shirt tonight, so you got your choice of 14 weapons.
So I started off with the bow, and then not that it wasn't working for me, but it wasn't doing enough damage, and I'm impatient. So I tried the Buster Sword. That really wasn't working for my play style. I was getting ran over. And then I went to, I think it was the Iron Sword, or like the Katana. That worked a little bit better, but still, I was getting ran over. So I went back to the bow, because at least I can stay away from them. So the game works better for me when I'm playing with people than whether I'm on my own.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's just by design or because they dump so much on you and they don't explain a whole lot, I feel like. And I'm kind of left of like, well, what am I doing? What's going on? And
so couple things. Yeah, playing with others is going to be easier in the long run because there's always going to be an extra target that the monster can go after, which will help give you breathing room. So there's always going to be that. The weapons, as long as you find your groove, there's no bad weapons. Like the longsword, you can figure out your flow of combat. I think you do very well in. The other thing, and everybody thinks it's a starter weapon because it's the first weapon they give you, but the sword and shield is really, really good in the fact that it gives you attack, it gives you blocking, and it gives you the ability to use some of your items without having to put all the weapons away. So that's why they kind of call it a starter weapon, but in the end, it's still a very solid weapon. I used it among 7 of the weapons that I played when I played World. So again, stick with it, play with your friends, and like I told you, to get together and after cinematics, you each have to watch your own cinematic, and then you can jump.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
It was. They've learned it. It worked a lot better in Rise, and we're expecting them to carry that forward in Wilds.
Yeah, my son was just telling me because he's beat Worlds 3 times. And he was just saying, Dad, the only thing that really works in that game is a great sword. He goes, anything else, you're just going to get frustrated. Now, he might have been saying that to me specifically because of my playstyle. I started off with an insect glaive, and I really like using it, albeit I don't know that I really understand it. But that's kind of my go-to weapon, and that's fun enough. But just like Gil was saying, I'm very impatient, and that game doesn't explain anything to you, and it requires you to be patient. And I found that if I'm not playing with somebody, I just don't play that game. I didn't got it in me. I've tried multiple times to beat that game, and I'm very far in it. But if my boys don't want to play with me, I'm not playing it.
Perfectly fine way to play. There's no wrong way to play. And you said it, and albeit not only does the game not support you being impatient, it actively punishes the player for being impatient, because you're going to think you could just get away with something, and the monster is going to decide that was the wrong move for you. Yep. So
I had one monster I was holding my own against, and it was almost dead. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing pretty good. And I did a move, and it was kind of a 50. I hit him, they hit me. I went to roll away, and I don't know if I was stunned or what. Anyway, I went to roll away and drink a potion, and before I could do anything, it smacked me with something like a move that it hadn't done the entire time I was fighting it. And I was just like, wait, what?
Well, the good news is, if you need a carry, a while ago I did buy Monster Hunter World off of Darrell when he was doing one of his whatnots, so I still have it. You and I can always link up, and I could give you some hunting horn loving during the matches and get you some buffs. So
sounds good.
I have mostly been playing. I've been jumping through a couple different games this week. I got into Helldivers. After we took down Meridia, I came in and just got 2 different medal drops. So I was sitting at over 200 medals one night, which was great. So I spent some of those. Did more Dave.
Yeah, one of the nice things is I've gotten quite a few medal drops from the major orders completed and not even played the game. So I've just been spending those on the Polar War Pass.
I just make sure
Warbond, getting all the stuff.
Just make sure I log in so that way it recognizes that I was in the game at one point during the major order.
They really need to raise the level cap or the cap on the Warbond medals, because it's easy to get to 250 and sit there and be stuck not being able to increase that number. So I think they need to raise that cap.
Well,
there's no reason it needs to be 250.
Have you bought every single thing that's in the Warbonds?
Yes.
I only have one more item to get. It's 16. It's one of the insignias, the 16 for 16 Warbond medals in the final area, the 3rd tier of the Polar Pass. So other than that, that's the only thing I need to get from all the Warbonds. I bought everything else.
Okay. See, I haven't been buying the trash stuff. I've just been focusing on the weapons and cool looking helmets.
I was gonna say obviously I played the game a lot more at one point, but my goal, after I got the Platinum Trophy, is like, okay, I still got stuff to buy in the Warbond, so I'm just buying everything. Okay. Even if I'm not going to use it.
I've also put time into Dave the Diver, because why not? It's such a fun game. Put more time into co-op play with Origami 2. Put some time into Hades 2. They recently released a patch, and obviously my favorite weapon being the Umbral Flames. Whatever they did allowed me to get past the second boss. So I tried getting past the second boss. I got them one time before this patch. After this patch, beat them with little to no issue. I think they may have buffed the flames a little too much, which is weird for me to say. That being said, the other game I've been playing is a game called Wizard with a Gun. It's actually a lot of fun. It's kind of like a world builder type thing. It's roguelike, so you go back out and you basically, what do you say? You have to collect these things that you rewind time and you go back, you try to find out what happened to the world. It evidently was destroyed 2 years later or 200 years ago. And you have to get stuff and build your town. And you can play it with up to 3 friends, I think. And you have to craft your own guns and ammo while you go out in the field. It's a fun little game. I picked it up on sale off Steam for a little while ago. But that's really all I have been playing. All right. What other people have been finding out as they've been turning on their PlayStations is that the Stars program seems to have been offline as the mobile icon disappears. Have any of you checked to see if that's still the case?
Yeah, it's not there.
Okay. So this article comes from Push Square, Liam Croft. The reward program on the PS5 and PS4 that lets users earn points in digital collectibles has been completely inaccessible for a few days. At the time of the article, PlayStation support has only indicated engineers are looking into the program. The article goes on to say some users are speculating a removal may be imminent, but they do say that that's not necessarily accurate or warranted because this would not be the way Sony removes programs. Generally, they do give people some heads up. But that being said, Alex, I don't know. I obviously, if I don't care about trophies, I really don't care about the Stars program. Have you been using it, Alex?
No, because correct me if I'm wrong, but through the PlayStation app, you can earn points to get to buy like games and other things like digital cards and stuff like that to spend on stuff in the PlayStation Store. So
it's not just trophy
I don't know
either.
Yeah, so I mean it's based on what you spend and so really like if you can do that through the PlayStation app, the revamped PlayStation app, then
see, I don't even get that. I don't get that, Darrell.
Yeah,
Darrell's showing a message.
What's the point of PlayStation?
I mean, the app will open for me. I don't have the icon to like it says level 4 for me. It used to by the bell. Yeah. I don't even have that. It's just an empty spot.
Once you click that and you get the gears, then the bell goes. Then the level goes away. So,
okay.
But yeah, the cool thing about the PlayStation, what's frustrating is we're days to play right now, right? So there's all these special campaigns and special things to earn points. But the cool thing about PlayStation Stars is it's not just trophy related, although there's a trophy hunting aspect to it. But like there's campaigns that pop up, right? So you go into the PlayStation app and you're like, all right, what is the campaign right now? And then when Jimmy Ryan retired, there was a campaign that said you could get like a little bobblehead, like a little digital bobblehead of him for your digital trophy cabinet. And it was like play one of the games, one of the big AAA titles that released under his tenure. So like I played Spider-Man 2 and it gave me the little digital bobblehead. Sometimes it'll be like purchase a game. Like when Alan Wake 2 came out, like Alex had mentioned Alan Wake 2 earlier. When Alan Wake 2 came out, you would get like points, like 50 points or something like that, extra bonus points on top of the points you accumulate for spending money on the platform for buying a game on one of those campaigns, one of those lists. So it's very much like Channel 3 when there's like quests and there's little like gamifiable options to keep you engaged in the app and in the platform. And if you like if you like to do that kind of stuff, you get these points, and every 5,000 points is like $5 on the store. So I've bought games on the sales or whatever, just from the points I accumulated from playing games, not even looking at it, not even thinking about it, or make purchases on there, whatever. So it's a cool little reward system. It's not, It's not what the one we used to have. The one we used to have years ago that was like all about like trophy hunting. That was the one where Tricky and I were making some money. We were playing all those trash games, and we would play trash games and get $10-20 in PSN credit, and then you'd buy enough trash games to platinum your way to the next one, and then you'd get more money, and then you'd have enough money to buy more trash games. So like it was almost like a cycle. Like, once you got in there, it kept us hooked. So, but this one's still pretty cool.
So you made pretty good use of it, Darrell. Yield, what about you?
I look at it every so often, and would, if I had the game, I would, get the collectible, the digital collectible. I had enough coins that I was considering turning some in for a PSN card, but now I can't claim them. So that kind of sucks. I hope it comes back. I find it really weird that the day that Days of Play launched,
it broke. Yeah.
It mysteriously doesn't show up on the app anymore.
Well, hopefully they'll add the integration into the console. Like, that's kind of like the big thing we're missing, is because the app is cool and all, but like, you don't, in my opinion, you really don't want to give people the opportunity to look away from the console when you're on it, right? Like, that's been their big thing lately, is like engagement. We want to drive engagement. We want, the PlayStation Portal's an engagement device. Like, we want to have, like, they have the trophy tips built into a lot of the games and stuff, because they want to keep you from leaving the platform so that you don't like take a break. For me, if you give me the option to grab my phone, I could get distracted and do something completely different, So only being able to do PlayStation Stars through my phone it's fine, but the real, in my opinion, like, put it on the console, let me go into the console, check it. Oh, snap, let me click that game. Let me buy it right now. To me, that would drive that engagement.
Okay. So hopefully,
yeah. And earlier, I mean, I want to. There's a little confusion on my part, but the PlayStation Stars was built into the PlayStation app, and like, it was this weird thing where, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but you got stuck at level 4. Like, once you got to level 4, you could progress no more, which I don't understand what that was about. But yeah, I mean, like, it was easy to earn money that you could use on the PlayStation Store for games, and that's really nice. Sony has revamped their reward system. They've had, like Darrell said, they've had some in the past. I can't remember what the name of it was, but they've done this and revamped it. So hopefully they're just not going to continually revamp these things so that if you had points in the stuff or coins in it, you lose those. Hopefully PlayStation Stars can be something going forward that they can further integrate into everything, and that if you've got money in there, you can spend it. Because, if something's going away, like if you have a gift card to some store or something, you want to know if that store is closing so you can use that money that you've built up, because any little bit helps these days. I'll take for a $5 free game. I don't care. But yeah, so it was a nice system. I don't even care, really, like, just getting a kickback on PlayStation purchases and all that is nice, because I'm sure over time, even over a console generation, you can earn at least 1-2 games, no matter how much you spend. So easy to accumulate stuff, and just kind of nice to have that little kickback. Hopefully it's not dead in the water. So hopefully it's something that they can, if there's a problem, they can fix it, and it's not, like the article said, people are suggesting the removal is imminent, but that's just kind of like the pessimist. People, I do this myself. People kind of think of the worst case scenario and dread over that, and hopefully it's not the case here. Because there's no reason to take it away. Like Darrell said, they're pushing engagement, and having a loyalty program like restaurants have. Buy so many burritos, get a free burrito on us. Like that stuff can actually help. Especially if you've got competing burrito store, like restaurants in the area. So Sony can only help themselves by having a program like this out there.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not like Sony to just cancel something suddenly without any sort of heads up. Even if it's short, they've generally been good about giving the players some sort of, hey, things not working, expect it to go away soon.
Because if they are all about engagement, even if you can get a free game on them through the coins that you've earned, that's still your engagement on their console. So, if it's a multi-platform game, hey, they're playing it on your console as opposed to a Switch or a Xbox.
Yeah.
It's definitely the way to approach the digital guys. Like if all you do is buy your games digitally, you will make money back. You'll get a good kickback because, like the games ain't cheap. And like all the physical games that I buy, they don't get the points. So I have to, if I want to take advantage, I would have to buy the game physical, put it in, and then play whatever campaigns or, you get a trophy in this game, play this game, whatever, So, but those of you guys who buy all digital, you get the double dip, double the points.
And Tricky is in chat saying Sony Rewards was the previous program. Not that I ever took advantage of that either. But again, anything above and beyond just buying and playing the game. I mean, Nintendo had the same exact thing with their gold coin program. And that was awesome. I got some, I thought I remember getting a game from it at the time.
Yeah.
I think I got Punch Out. Yeah, I got Punch Out for the Wii years ago.
So Sony still has their rewards one. But they took the trophy passes off, like the trophy. That's what they called them. They called them passes, or something like that. You would like, hey, 10 golds or 10 platinums was one. Was 100 gold, 1,000 bronze, something like that. It was or 250 gold. Either way, doesn't matter. A certain amount of trophies would accumulate. You'd get the pass. You'd get the points. That's gone. There's still other Sony integration, like buying Blu-rays, buying movies, and scanning them into the app gives you those same style of points, whatever. I have the Sony branded credit card. It used to be like a Capital One card or something like that. Now it's Bread Financial, but either way. So when I get gas and when I buy stuff for my video, get like all this junk back here for my filthy reselling business, like when I can, I use that, or all my PayPal purchases are sourced through my Sony card. So I get rewards points for that stuff. So I just cashed out like $50 this past month in rewards points for PlayStation Network. That's how I pay for my kids' PlayStation Plus. My son wanted to buy Gang Beast on his profile instead of having to log in onto my profile to use it. I like, sure, whatever. So it makes it's one of those things that kind of accumulates a lot in the background. And it's nice to have because every now and again the kids are like, hey, Dad, I want to buy a skin on Fortnite. Can I use my allowance? Rather than me have to go buy a PlayStation card or something, I just keep money trickling into the wallet. And I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And then I don't actually have to give those nerds cash.
That's bullying. Your phone's going to send you an alert. Your kids are being bullied.
Bark has just sent me a notification.
And Roboto is in chat and agrees. Yes, he says filthy, and we know exactly what that means.
Yep.
One other thing we hope is not going away anytime soon. Mark, and I always forget, I butcher this. Mark Cerny, either way.
Cerny.
He says
Cerny is how I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then Mark Cerny says, when making consoles, we're not trying to build low-cost PCs. Coming from an interview in GameIndustry.biz from Christopher Dring. It was an interview with Mark Cerny, the lead architect of the PS4 and PS5, explained that over his 42 years of gaming experience have led to his design theory of the latest PlayStation consoles. Cerny explains that he still spends significant time playing and that the industry has changed a lot over the years. He goes on to say that building consoles takes about 4 years, which is less time than it takes to make a lot of AAA titles. So when it comes to console design, he tries to take steps to reduce developer timelines. Tricky is saying that IGN owns that site. Good for them. Glad to see that they could buy up all the good competition. They can't come up with their own articles, so they have to buy others. What does that sound familiar like?
Microsoft.
Anyways, Mark Cerny was quoted, "One of the exciting aspects of the console hardware design is that we have freedom with regards to what we put in the console. Or to put that differently, we're not trying to build a low-cost PC, and we aren't bound by any particular standards. So if we have a brainstorm that audio can become much more immersive and dimensional if there's a dedicated unit that's capable of complex math, then we can do that. Or if the future feels like high-speed SSDs rather than HDDs, we can put an end-to-end system in the console. Everything from the flash dies to the software interface and the game creators use and get that 100% adoption." So basically, what he's saying, and this has always been the argument about owning a PC versus owning a console, he's saying that he's trying to make a self-contained system that does what they want it to do, because PCs have to be able to do a lot of different things. Consoles can do a little thing. So it's like jack of all trades versus master of a few.
Master of one.
Yeah.
Or a few, yeah.
And I'm totally fine with that. So, Yield, when it comes to Cerny's theory, you know, again, do you have anything that you think that they need to be aware of? Anything that they should be thinking differently when designing consoles?
They need to last. And which they've done over the 4 and so far into the 5. We had an issue with the 2 that they would burn out. You know, both Sony and Xbox had their issues with that. So that was always kind of frustrating, you know, was that you invest that money into that system and then it doesn't last. So
you know, I do to that point, Yield. I will have to wonder if going forward, if digital consoles, because they don't have the disc readers in there, if they will last longer than, you know, if they can keep the heat down from playing the games and the consoles being on for so long, if that will help consoles last longer. It's just getting rid of the disc reader and just having, you know, a digital versions of games on there.
That would be something to start testing keeping data on.
Here's the problem. So, Darrell, I'll get to you in 1 second. The problem is SSDs, as we know them, have limited read-write life cycles. Mm-hmm. So just be aware of that. Darrell, you were going to say?
Yep. Well, I was going to say two things. One, like, so your SSDs have a lifespan. Only so many times they can be downloaded on. And then I don't know if you can hear it in the background right now. I'm still using my my 2013 launch PS4. It sounds like a jet engine. It is seriously, it's like crazy loud right now. But I was just looking at it yesterday. I still have my launch backwards compatible PS3 that works. So, I think Sony's had a pretty good track record of making quality that lasts for a long time. I don't have a launch 360. As a matter of fact, the first 4 360s I had, they all died.
I don't think many people have launch 360s anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think most of the 360s died.
Slim, what? Alex, you chimed in a little bit. Do you have anything else?
No, my biggest thoughts when it comes to, you know, the PlayStation and like the architecture of it, as far as what they can do and what they're capable of, and especially with like load times, you know, playing like Horizon, there being virtually no load times. Like, we can only see graphics, like intake stuff so well. So you're getting to a point where you hit a wall when it comes to graphics. But when it comes to other areas where you can improve games, like load times and stuff like that, I feel like Cerny and the other people who help make the PlayStation, like the actual hardware, have done a really good job. My big thought on this is, you know, we just had a CEO from Sony retire. We have two new CEOs. You know, CEOs are not super easy, but like they're replacing them is not as hard. My thing is when Cerny actually retires, that's going to be the big fucking thing for Sony, because that guy has done really well in his job, and it's not going to be as easy to replace him. So that's my only thought. Is I think it's when you shared the article was did it say something about his age in there? It was like Cerny at 60 or something like that, 60, or did I misread that?
Yep.
Yeah, because he's getting a little older. Years. Not necessarily like he's, you know, I mean, he's getting close to retirement age. If he wants to, you know, who knows? Maybe he'll help make one more console, maybe 2. But, you know, at some point, replacing Mark Cerny is going to be really hard. Although at that point, who knows? Maybe we're not going to actually have consoles anymore.
So a couple things there. First and foremost, when he's talking about that it takes about 4 years to make a console, and we're always talking about what's coming next, if there's this PS5 Pro coming, things like that, guess what he's doing right now? He is now working on the PS6 and what that's going to look like. And speaking from the world of tech, and I look at what computers go through, you see, you all have seen how big my freaking case is and everything in there. It's more than just throwing parts in a box and making it work and connect. I remember when the PS5 was coming out, Cerny had a a presentation and discussed about the architecture of the PS5 and what it all allowed him to do. And he talked about how the SSD was tied into the system and how the 3D audio sounding was being made with the headset in mind. And hearing that guy talk, you could tell he loves designing. You could tell he loves doing his job. So you're right, Alex. When he decides that it's time to go, he better be training some sort of apprentice or something to take over. Going back to
and also, you can go to chat and I'll get my point off here when we're done.
So real quick, Tricky says that he wants to see better storage options. Roboto talks about get rid of the disk reader ? Bite your tongue. And Tricky comes back in when I mentioned my PC and says digital master race. Yes, I have like 8 terabytes of storage on my computer. But as far as better storage options, I think the PS5 did perfectly fine because you're able to go out and get a PCIe Gen 4 SSD and throw it in there. Compared to Xbox, you had to buy their proprietary expensive SSD. I was able to buy a 2 terabyte SSD for the PlayStation for $100 and expanded my storage massively. You still can't get a 1 terabyte SSD expansion slot for the Xbox for less than $200. Alex, you were going to say?
Oh, when it comes to Cerny and the team designing the actual consoles, it's not just like you're designing for day one. You have to be forward looking, and whatever Sony wants to do in the future of that console's lifespan, which has been traditionally 10 years, you got to make sure the console can do that and kind of future-proof it. So they're also kind of looking to the future and predicting. I mean, I'm sure that Sony is telling them, hey, this is what we want to do. But also, things change on the fly when it comes to making games. So they also have to kind of future-proof these to a degree so that the people who buy a launch console, can still play games when it comes time to the, for the 8th, 9th, 10th anniversary of the launch of a console.
And in chat again, Dan Tucker's lurking. Thank you for stopping by. Tricky says, be able to play 5 games on external. And I'll tell you why that's not going to happen. Because the PCI Express Gen 4 read-write speeds far exceed anything currently available via USB. So unfortunately, it's going to be something that people are going to have to wait for. Maybe the future console. That being said, anything else I missed? The one thing he did say in the article that I didn't cover was that not just graphics, but that gamers' desire for games has changed. Before it was beautiful graphics, which we have, but now that desire has changed from 30 frames a second to 60 frames a second, including ray tracing, because he was surprised by the amount of adoption that developers took in with the console and adding ray tracing to games. But as we still see, a lot of those are still split between 30 FPS fidelity with ray tracing versus 60 FPS performance without ray tracing. So once we get that level in the console, I think we'll be in a really good place. And then going back to another article shared, not a knock, but something that I've been calling for a while, is it looks like Sony may be removing that 8K indicator on their PlayStation boxes moving forward. Because I don't think whether it's the console can't do it or whether or not games just aren't supporting it, it's just not a feature that is worth touting anymore. And Roboto, ray tracing is a newfangled technology, something you're probably not familiar with.
When you play all those Japanese horny boy games, you don't have time for 8K.
They don't,
or for
they
ray
don't
tracing.
need those. No, it's 2K.
You're telling me 8K?
Good.
You're telling me 8K wouldn't make that better?
He's playing these old PS1 horny boy games in 480i. So
when Lara Croft's boobs look like triangles.
Yep.
Yeah, Roboto, my reply is inadequate because you don't need to know. Anyways, what everybody else does need to know is that Sony is spending over $250 million on the Days Gone devs live service game, coming from Tech for Gamers, Abdullah Wasim, Ben Studio, the developer behind Days Gone. Wow, that was going to go sideways real quick. of all months. Ben Studio has said Sony has invested over $250 million in their next game. Unfortunately for fans of the original zombie genre-based game, Ben Studio's next game is not Days Gone 2. There's no clear details on what the next game will be, but it said that it will be another one of Sony's live service titles that uses Unreal Engine 5. All this to say, it would have taken $150 million per the studio to invest in a Days Gone sequel, but that Sony wasn't a quote-unquote fan of the IP. Darrell, what's your take on all this?
I'm not a fan of this decision, and it proves that this is probably, I think, the incredible Herman Hulst might have his eyes on some live service stuff too. I don't think that it was a single entity that was interested in that.
You mean
so, I don't
Jimmy
know.
Ryan's protege, Herman Hulst?
I mean, hey.
Oh, this if they're spending $250 million at this point on this game was set in motion during Jimmy Ryan's tenure. This was not all of a sudden Herman Hulst and Hideki Nishino thing.
That's actually not 100% true, because the former dudes from Days Gone have since left and have been very vocal about their distaste with their relationship with Sony and the games that they were pitching. So sure, I don't necessarily think that this was just done overnight, but the games that they were pitching and the games they were working on was Days Gone 2, it was the 50s or 60s Uncharted. It was like a Sunny, like a noir inspired Sunny story, and something else. I mean, they've been pitching games. What's the guy's name? Gavin is his name, or I can't remember the dude's name. It doesn't matter. Either way, they've since gone.
You mean the guy at Naughty Dog?
No, it's the dude that wrote Days Gone. I just can't remember his name.
Well, I know that Jeff Ross was one of the heads at Ben's studio, and he was very vocal.
And the other guy, he's a bit of a douche too, real vocal. But either way, it doesn't matter. But they were saying they were pitching other stuff. So I don't know. I mean, again, I mean, we know how much JR had a boner for live service. They all do. So it's unfortunate. I would have taken $150 million Days Gone sequel that would have sold, done commercially well, over a $250 million chance at a live service game. So either A, they got a prototype that's pretty solid, or B, they're going to do it until they can't do it anymore. So either way, it doesn't sound like it's going to be something for me.
Is John Gavin the name you were looking for?
John Gavin, yeah, that was the guy's name.
So going back to chat real quick.
Oh, no, sorry, John Garvin. John
Garvin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Andy Gavin was the guy at Naughty Dog. John Garvin was at Ben's studio.
They're all the same. So.
Roboto in chat comes in and Googled his own answer and said, ray tracing is a rendering technique that can create more realistic lighting and shadows in video games by simulating how light interacts with objects in a scene. You're welcome.
So Horny Boy Shadows.
Horny Boy Shadows. Yield, your thoughts on Sony spending $250 million for live service instead of $150 for a Days Gone sequel?
Well, I just think that's just a great way to invest your money. Don't you guys?
Yeah.
So dumb. So dumb.
See, from what I heard, Days Gone wasn't a bad game. Like, I didn't play it myself, but it seems to have a good following.
It's got a slow start. If you can get through that slow start, it's actually a good game. But I'm not going to lie. Like, there were a couple of moments when I'm playing this, I'm like, wow, I got suckered. And when you get over that hump, it's like, oh, wow, there is a really good game in here. I think a lot of people didn't get over that hump. They were like, wow, we got suckered. We're done. And
it was released, buggy and broken when it first came out. Like we got it when it was with the day one patch, but the press got it pre-patch because Colin Moriarty on Sega Symbol talks about that story a lot. How he's like, I can't believe Sony PR let that out, because typically Sony uses proprietary engines, and this was an Unreal game, which is kind of out of the box for them. So they were like, man, this was a bit of a different, release structure than normal. And so I got the game. I played it. I agree with Yield. When he says slow to start, I'm talking 30 hours slow to start. Like, I have never played a game for as long as I played Days Gone before it really got its hooks in me, to where I was like, holy crap, this is freaking awesome. Like it was a slog. It's a cool story, and you eventually get to do some amazing stuff. But to me, that first half of the game was really long and really slow. Fortunately, I had the vid, so I was sitting in a room with nothing else to do but play video games, and like I experienced it all in a matter of a couple days. But I imagine Yield's 100% correct. There's a lot of people that didn't necessarily get through it. But the game sold considerably well because it's been talked about and reported multiple times that it was a commercial success.
So with that,
apparently it sold over 7 million copies at the very least, with other reports saying it sold over 9 million copies. So my conspiracy theory has always been if Sony didn't like the game, the franchise, or didn't want to franchise it, it's because it was too close post-apocalyptically to The Last of Us. That was always been my theory, is that it was too close and they didn't like that. So because obviously, I guarantee.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Yield.
I was going to say, I don't disagree with that, because even playing the game, I kind of thought, I can see why a lot of people are dogging on this game, because there is a Last of Us vibe in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is two different games. But if you're, a diehard Last of Us person, you're going to consider this a Last of Us clone.
And with Sony's, go ahead, Matt.
No, go ahead, because mine's not hot topic.
I was just going to say, with the live service push for Sony, I mean, we know that they've canceled games. We know that they've delayed live service games. As we saw from their latest State of Play showcase, Concord is one of those games that made it through. Concord. I don't have a lot of hope for their live service push when that is one of the games that they let through.
Dude, that game looks so bad. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, like it's.
Oh, you're right.
What if that game? Everybody has made fun of it, like basically looking like, if nothing else, that game is, way too late. They should have released that game sooner, or made it sooner, or like they're jumping on the trend way too late. What is this game from Sony Ben gonna look like? What is this State of Play? Because I honestly, or not State of Play, but this live service game, because honestly, it doesn't seem like that many people are sold on Haven's Fair games. I mean, we should give it a chance, but nothing that Sony has done or shown us live service has really made anybody excited to play it, I don't think.
Except for
the exception of Helldivers.
No, the live service games that have been,
but
the live service games that have been successful. Well, I guess you could say Helldivers, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, they've all been third party.
Well, that's just the nature of the beast, though, right? Because everyone, like, this whole live service shtick's been going on for what, a decade now? Like, people have been throwing everything they can out there just to see what sticks. A lot of games get canceled before they even make it out. I mean, even legendary game creator Cliff Bleszinski couldn't crack that nut. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I say legendary, not even sarcastically. I think the guy's a total douchebag, but he created some amazing games. And when he tried to do the live service thing, he just couldn't do it. Everyone was trying it. And it's not for me. I'm not a live service guy. I don't sit there and chip away at these games. I don't return to them once I platinum them, if I even make it that far. So, I haven't got bitten by the live service bug per se, but one day maybe. But like games like Concord, dude, they look like you seriously, like a freaking AI came up with that. Like those character models look abysmal. They're so bad. Like graphically, they look good and smooth, but they're so boring and bland. It literally looks like an AI sat back and they put a prompt in there that said, give us something that's Guardians of the Galaxy, Fortnite, and hits all the DEI specs. Like it's so bad.
Enter.
Well, the other thing is that game also proves that Sony can't read the room, because I don't know if you guys saw, some people thought that game was going to be free. No, it's going to cost $40, which tells me that they're looking at Helldivers and like, Helldivers was successful at $40. We can just copy and paste that formula on this other game, which everyone's commentary on that $40 price point is they have further sent this game out to die. Like, I am so concerned for Firewalk's future, because if this game does not fucking hit, God, I can only imagine what's going to happen to that studio if that game is not successful.
Think about this: that game survived, and Factions died, and we know the original Factions was good. It was fun to play. It really even had a decent I guess maybe they just didn't make enough money off of it, but like that was a decent like storefront with skin packs and crap like that in there. The original factions was decent. So you would think building another factions for 8 years, because it was in the development when the beginning of The Last of Us 2 was in development. You would think that like factions would have been like, oh, holy crap, we got this banger on our hands. That got canceled because it wasn't sticky enough. But Concord, I don't know, man. That's gross.
Here's the thing I'll add in before we move on to the next topic. But going back to the Days Gone, if you remember, this also launched the same month that GameStop started their love it or return it policy, which was if you bought a game and you didn't love it within 7 days, you can return it. Was it 7 days? I forgot. One of those.
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
And unfortunately, Days Gone was one of those games that released that month. And I think there might have been some effect, like you guys were saying, slow start, buggy start. Maybe a lot of people took advantage, and now the game has had a tail. It's made up a lot of sales, because I remember seeing it on sale on Steam for like $5, at the recent Steam sale. So, certainly the game has had a tail. It has a following, and there are a lot of people who are going to be sad that it is not continuing on.
Yep. The cool thing about the GameStop thing, though, is that like love it or leave it, even if it did get returned, that GameStop still made that point of sale. Yeah. So that still, I would say, actually, that probably means that it could have sold more if that didn't. If that would actually played an effect on it, but. It was a decent game. I recommend anyone who has the option to play it to give it a shot. And I would just do it with that caveat, like Yield said, it's a slow burn. But if you like Sons of Anarchy and The Walking Dead, you'll like that game, because that's what it is.
Yeah. What is not doing well out there, unlike 7 million in sales for Days Gone, behind Suicide Squad, the year's biggest video game flop. This comes from Bloomberg.
Surprise.
And our favorite journalist, Jason Schreier. The head of video games for Warner Brothers Discovery, David Haddad, visited the London office of Rocksteady Studios with some choice words. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League was tanking. On May 9th, during an earnings call, WB revealed the game took a $200 million loss on the game, which I think somebody had said was in the neighborhood of what it cost them for the first movie that they did. Sources who requested to remain anonymous detailed some of the issues that plagued the game, including numerous delays. You'll remember the infamous 2020 delay after 10 minutes of gameplay footage was shown and was met with lukewarm at best and extremely critical reception at worst. Constantly shifting visions. So originally, there were people are saying originally the game was focused on melee combat, and it shifted to gunplay, for instance, a vehicle idea that was scrapped. They had a vehicle idea that was scrapped, and there were leadership that was still pushing it forward. A culture of rigid perfectionism, sometimes waiting weeks for the game director to review work needed to move the project forward. So you had people waiting a long time to get their tasks done. And then a genre pivot for the studio they were not suited to, a multiplayer, multi-character live service game, which we know the original Arkham games were not. And I don't know where Tricky is getting his idea, because in the comments he says the story is such bullshit. I'm not certain what part. The fact is,
he's probably all of it is. He is a.
I know he doesn't like Jason Schreier.
Well, that and he. I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound like I'm bashing him, but I'm not. He absolutely loves this game. So he will die on that hill defending it.
That's fine. However,
I mean, you can have a game that you enjoy, or even a good game. I'm not classifying this as either one of those, but good games can fail commercially. They can be a flop. The original Psychonauts is a cult classic, beloved by many, but that game was a flop commercially. So I mean, like, even if a game is fun to play to you, or it gets good review scores, it can still be a commercial flop. That doesn't matter.
Agreed. So what we have here is a game that seems like it was lacking succinct direction, Obviously, that first reception in 2022 was a problem, and we all agree it was because they delayed the game after they put out screenshots and people saw tons of different types of currency. It was an issue. And again, we know that this is not the Rocksteady of old, so therefore things have changed. Alex, what are your thoughts on this? That $200 million loss on the game. Obviously, the game is not a success. I have said it's dead by season 4. What is your take on the deep dive by Jason Schreier?
Well, to quote Mortal Kombat, whoopsie. No, I want to respond by reading part of an article that I shared in the Trophy Wars group from GameSpot, written by Darren Bonthius. Suicide Squad is reportedly getting bare bones support as Rocksteady moves on to new projects. Quote, after launching earlier this year, the support for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League has reportedly been reduced to a skeleton crew as developer Rocksteady is said to be pivoting to new projects. According to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, the bulk of the studio is reportedly working on a director's cut of Hogwarts Legacy. Beyond that, Bloomberg report claims that Rocksteady studio leaders are looking to pitch a new single-player game, which will return Rocksteady to its roots following the poor critical and commercial performance of the game. As revealed during an earnings call in May, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was a $200 million bomb for Warner Bros. Discovery. So what that basically tells me is they are pretty much scrapping their DLC plans for this game. As far as I put this on the thread that I put in Trophy Wars, a few people commented. I think Curtis was one of those people saying they basically are still on the Joker season. They haven't gotten to the second character yet. So basically what I read into this situation is whatever they have done, they'll release, but that they're basically moving on from this game. There's no way. I think this, to me, this is confirmation of, you're not getting more DLC characters or that many more since, a skeleton crew, I can't imagine that skeleton crew is going to be working on this DLC to get these DLC characters out for, the next 11, 12 characters. I think there's 13 total, and you have 13 total, so you'd have 12 more. But yeah, does anyone disagree that this basically means they're killing off support for this game, the DLC support?
I mean, that's how I took it.
Dude, this game has had disaster written on it for so long, for so many reasons.
Since the first state of play.
Since the first time they showed it, that this game should have first off, if you're going to do a Suicide Squad game, it should have been more Arkham-like. It should have never been this live service gimmick bullcrap. And the liberties they took with the characters, both for the Suicide Squad and the actual Justice League, were awful. So, you got to sit back and look at who is this game even for, right? As someone I'm the biggest DC fan that I know, and I hate the direction that DC has taken their properties and the people that they've let run wild with them. There's so much bigger and so much more wrong with this game than just the live service of it. I think the live service was a bad direction, but I think you can have a live service game, and if it's good, you're probably still going to lose. I think this game was destined to fail. Did it have to fail bigger and worse than Avengers? No. But both of those games suffered from the same problem. They're like, we have this IP, we have these characters. Let's do this thing that we see across the pond that everybody's making all this money on, and let's force it into what we have. This is not working, But me personally, live service aside, I would have played this game had they not, some of the other choices that they made not been there. I just was completely turned off from it. And when the game hit the market and, YouTube does what it does, it's like, I'm glad I dodged this bullet on multiple levels. It's not the Rocksteady.
What I have to wonder is,
go ahead.
Oh, finish your thought there, Darrell. Sorry.
I was going to say, it's not the Rocksteady we had that made the great games anyways. Everyone's already gone. So they take the lineage in the universe, right? Because technically this is still that universe's Batman. And they just, story-wise and decision creative-wise, they just undid everything. It was you didn't even have a good game there to salvage what might have been decent, gameplays. But go ahead, Alex. What were you going to say?
No, one question arises out of this for me, and then one positive. The one positive is that Rocksteady is already pitching a new game. So clearly, this is the kind of game that you think might tank a studio. Luckily, it looks like Warner Brothers is still going to roll with them, and Rocksteady is still going to be a thing and still be able to make games. So that is a positive note. But a question I have is now, if you're moving to bare bones support for this game, does that mean it's never even, they're not even going to try a last ditch effort to get it on PlayStation Plus or something like that and have people adopt it that way? Because again, if you're moving to bare bones support and you're not even going to try to get it on a service like that, does that basically mean like you're not even going to be like, well, if we throw it on PlayStation Plus, maybe we can keep putting out DLCs? Again, to me, this just seems like they've completely given up, and they're going to have some support for the game, but they're already moving on to other projects with most of the team. So yeah, I don't even know if they're going to try to throw this on PlayStation Plus as like on a Hail Mary. It just seems like they're washing their hands of it completely.
I got to be honest. I don't think I'd play it. I think I'm that turned off from it that even a DC game on PlayStation Plus would, it's just not, especially this one, it's just not appealing. I mean, I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like I've done enough watching and research on this game to know that this was a bad one. This was a bad call across the board. And so I don't know, man. I think that you have the literal parallel right here, like the stark contrast of each other. You have Hogwarts Legacy, one of the, if not the best-selling game of last year, or year it came out. I feel like it surpassed Call of Duty.
It did.
In the US, I think it was.
Yeah, and then you have Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. All right, two IPs that define Warner Brothers. Okay, one's a single-player experience that's just really well crafted. I've been playing it with my daughter. It's freaking awesome. And then the other is this live service trend chaser, where you took some characters that you obviously didn't know and didn't appreciate, and you wrote a really terrible story, and you try to shoehorn a bunch of live service gameplay trying to chase that Fortnite money. To me, that is the perfect case. Like, hey, let's not do that again. Let's go back to what we're known for. Make a good Batman game. Make a good Arkham game.
Yeah.
Well, and this may go beyond just this game, but you look at Warner Brothers' treatment of the DC cinematic universe and everything they're trying to do. Look, they've had some hits, but there's also been a lot of misses. So Warner Brothers as a whole, when it comes to the DC comics, hasn't managed things particularly well.
No, it's been really bad. Dude, I'm telling you, I was pulling like 12 to 15 books a month for years. I haven't bought a comic book in 2 years. It's so bad. From everything they're doing, from their films to their animated stuff, even when their live action stuff wasn't hitting with everyone, their animated stuff was freaking slapping. Like, it was good. But their comic writing is bad. They don't have all the writers that they've had the past few decades. They've been great. Like, their games have been bad. Like, I enjoyed Gotham Knights, but even it was a departure from the games that were the Arkham games. You know, it wasn't terrible, but if you would have, I mean, it was already starting to kind of lean like that way of like, let's get that live servicey, like not core linear storytelling gameplay. You could tell they were deviating, they were experimenting, even with Gotham Knights, which I didn't think was a terrible game at all. But
I think the issue you had here, listen, the Suicide Squad movies were fun. The first one less so than the second one. The second one, I think, took the camp and leaned into it, kind of taking that Deadpool perspective.
Yeah.
Look at what King Shark did in that second movie. Compare that to what he is in the game. And the article goes into this, like King Shark and Captain Boomerang using guns as opposed to their brawn and their trademark boomerang. Like, yep. It was a missed opportunity. And I asked Tricky this a while ago. It's like, Deadshot, do you get any special buffs? The fact that you're using guns? No. Well, that's a missed opportunity. Like, you're taking the character and you're not doing justice by that. So I have an issue with that. They didn't utilize the IP properly. Tricky says in chat that he is joining this convo. Tricky, please do not.
I want to. Don't let him in. Block him. I want to piggyback off that, Matt, because you're 100% correct. King Shark shoots guns. Captain Boomerang doesn't use boomerangs, and Harley Quinn shoots Batman in the head and kills him. Like, who gave them this IP. They do not know what they're doing. I don't care what explanation of a multiverse you try to pull with this. You don't know your source material. You would not, if in fact, like, okay, Alex, I guarantee, I know, I've read the stuff you've written before. I've read your write-ups on the show. Like, you have some writing chops. If I handed you the freaking DC Bible and I said, here at the core is what the characters are, my ask, Mr. Warner Brothers, is that you write a good story using the source material. They completely went against it. I mean, like, it didn't make any sense at all. And it's like when you immediately you got King Shark jet packing around the city, like with a gun, like that's dumb. Like, and I don't care if your only exposure is the State of Play trailer, right? Like, if you think about it, the reason why these things exist is a huge marketing blast to a wide audience, right? So your opportunity to win, Alex, and yield is going to be State of Play.
Was right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're like, wait a second, I've seen the Suicide Squad movie. I know a little bit about these guys. Why is King Shark jetpacking around with Harley Quinn making, quips and shooting people with an assault rifle? That's dumb. I'm out. You missed your opportunity.
Thank you.
You should have been like, okay, wait a second. We want to do a live service game. We're going to do a melee. We're going to do a class-based game, and this will be the melee character. This will be our Deadshot. Duh. The freaking sometimes the leader of the Suicide Squad. You would definitely make him. That would be your guy with your gun. You freaking Captain Boomerang, not using boomerangs. Like my freaking 9-year-old that just came in here, like, would do a better job than these people.
I will say this. I saw Captain Boomerang using boomerangs, but he was using it as like a teleportation thing because that's what they did. Tricky has told us multiple times is that they stole League tech, and that's how they're making it able to do these things. But you're also taking a game, and I know the comic has been going on since what, the 50s, Darrell? Do you know the timeline of that? Yeah. There's never been a big market for this. So I didn't know why they were expecting this to do gangbusters when the movies themselves were fine, but they also weren't, home run hits for WB. So like, where did somebody get the idea that this was going to be a good
movie? The last Suicide Squad movie was the big bomb. Like, it did worse. Granted, it came out during COVID, but it did worse.
Also,
financially.
no Will Smith. Had no Will Smith.
Yeah, true that. Yeah, or Jared Leto.
But it had Idris Elba and John Cena. So I mean,
yeah, it did have.
No, I didn't see John Cena in the movie. I heard he was in the movie. I didn't see him.
Yeah, I never saw him either. But the thing that gets me, right? Okay, so you take that, right, and then you take Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights. You have characters jumping and double jumping and triple jumping and essentially flying through the air because they touched the Lazarus pit. Now they have supernatural Lazarus powers. I'm like, dude, I've read more comic books than probably anyone I actually know in real life. That's not that. First off, that doesn't happen. Two, it's not good. It's just not good. Like, it's just bad. Like, I can tell you, like, a 5-minute consultation would, like, I'll be like, no, that's not going to work.
So how do you make King Shark less dangerous? You give him a gun because they can't rip you apart with his fucking hands.
That's right.
No, so I already kicked Tricky once. I'll kick him again. Here's the thing. So as we saw from the what Matt read, the paraphrasing from the article, this was originally supposed to be a melee-based game. So, there's this trend, everything has to have a shoot. Like, shooters are so popular that you just kind of exist. And I'm sure that many people go into games and like, how can we make this a shooter so that most people who want to play modern games will play it? So you may have had originally King Shark use his fist. You may originally would have had Harley with a giant hammer. But then it's like, okay, well, it has to be a shooter, so we have to have everybody with a shooting element. So the trend of modern games may have also influenced this game, where you may have had Rocksteady being like, oh, we want to do this thing, but maybe Warner Brothers is like, shooters are really popular, so why don't we have a shooter? I don't know. There was just probably so many influences on this game, and I'm sure Warner Brothers had their negative effect as well. But Yeah, like making every character feel taking what made them special and kind of making everything more homogenous. Like it just doesn't seem like it's a good idea, especially when you're making the guy who's really good with a gun feel like everybody else, just kind of ridiculous.
That's my sticking point, is that you take Deadshot, you give him a gun, and you don't make it that he has any sort of real
that he hardly misses
based powers. Yeah, like I don't know. Anyways, Alex, Darrell and Alex have had a good chance. Yield, anything else to add to this before we move on?
Darrell hit the nail on the head with the state of play. So when this game came out, I was mildly interested in it. You know, I'd seen some of the trailers. I like the Arkham games. I like the DC characters. I'm like, all right, let's see what we got, right? That state of play launched, and I was like, nope. Why are they jumping around, flying through the air, and all this stuff? And this doesn't look like any type of an Arkham game. And then there was a couple of episodes. I don't think Tricky was on, but he was broadcasting his play in the background while we were recording, and I was watching him play, going, okay, thinking to myself, while we're recording, I'm watching him play. All right, maybe I was too harsh on the state of play. I'll watch somebody play it. Maybe I'll see something that hooks me. I watched him play it a couple different times, and every time I watched him, I walked away going, glad I didn't invest in that game. And I'm not. And I say that not be like, oh crap, how am I going to say this?
There's 1,000 different reasons to not invest in that game.
Well, I mean, for those who like it, I'm happy for you, but they didn't draw me in. And they're, like Darrell said, you've got the state of play. This is your one opportunity to get people on the fence, on your side of the fence, and they kicked everybody off of it, tried to delay it to sway them back on it, and we were all like, nope, we're done. Peace out.
Yep.
All right.
You would think, like, with all the other IP that Warner Brothers owns, they could have reskinned this something different.
That's the thing. It could have been anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, all right. You can't beat a dead horse enough that it comes back to life. So
I don't see glue coming out of it yet.
I say we could get Game of Thrones with guns, right? Everybody wants that.
Why not? Ned Stark, shooting Joffrey instead of being beheaded. That'll be fine. Yeah. All right. Time for us to move on to socials. And we only have one question this week coming from Curtis. And it's related to today's Xbox Game Pass-a-thon that they showed earlier today. Curtis says he thinks it's cool the new Doom is coming to PS5, which obviously they did not advertise during the show, something we found out after. And that for the people like me who like Lego games, that Lego Horizon is coming to PS5, Switch, and PC day one. So far, my favorite part of Summer Games Fest was the Guerrilla Collective. What about you guys? We'll go to you first. What do you... actually, Curtis, we're going to put a pin in that because we're going to get into Summer Games Fest here as our topic of the week, which we're going to have plenty of conversation for.
I didn't realize it was this weekend until I started seeing stuff pop up on Sony's Facebook page, and I was like, oh, something must have happened.
So thank you for your question, Curtis, but we are going to about to get into this in detail. So with that, guys, we are going to go into our topic of the week, the Summer Games Fest. And I linked the mega thread. I didn't put any notes in this because there was somebody in the chat in that Reddit thread who put up pretty much all of the games that we can discuss. So I'm going to go through some of these while you guys think about, some of the games that you want to really come out with and talk about. But I know for me personally, I'm looking at things like Lego Horizon Adventures, which, we've always talked about, and Tricky has chimed in and says that's a day one purchase for him.
That's gonna be good.
Yeah, I think, and the fact that I think it's co-op is going to be fun, but we can go more into our thoughts as we go through. I just want to give you guys time to really pick out what you're looking at. Blumhouse Games and their horrifying showcase, which they gave a whole lot of games that have different horror elements to it. So I really liked that. Slitterhead obviously looks really unique and fun.
Day one.
For me, Monster Hunter Wilds obviously is going to be the bigger game I'm waiting for in 2025. And then I think for me on a lesser scale, Mecha Break and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind, which really looks like it's taking the success that Shredder's Revenge had last year and doing it for the Power Rangers. So, Alex, we'll go to you first. What games were sticking out in your mind?
So the number one game, you just mentioned it, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Revenge, beat 'em up, classic style beat 'em up, very much in the vein of Shredder's Revenge, cool anime looking art style. So visually it's very sleek. I don't know if you all remember the Super Nintendo beat 'em up Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yep.
They had a few. There was like a fighting game and all this, but that beat 'em up was hard. It was really hard.
It was
fun, but with what we've seen with the beat 'em up genre in the last like 5 years with Streets of Rage 4, free for PlayStation Plus this month if you're on the essential tier, but also Shredder's Revenge, those are two of the best beat 'em ups ever made, if not the two best. So what we've seen is kind of a renaissance in that genre. So to bring Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which fits perfectly into that, like, hey, you fight through a level with the Power Ranger, you get to the end, you fight through the Putty Patrol, then you get to the end, fight one of the classic bosses. That's great. I love fighting the monsters. So that really is the game probably that's the most on my radar, because I grew up with Super Double Dragon, Battletoads and Battle Maniacs, Final Fight. So all of that, Castle Crashers, anytime you have a beat 'em up, and especially with a property that I really, really love, that's number one right there. So the other thing, of course, I one of the other trailers on the lookout for was Lego Horizon Adventures, which of course we have talked about before, but this was the big premiere of it. And I'm not completely sold on it. Like I was telling the guys in the chat, we should probably have seen this game coming when they did the official tall neck Lego set, and they've already done like the other building block kind of, some of the more knockoff things. They've done like a Tremortus, they've done a Slitherfang. But with the official Lego set, we might have seen this coming, or probably should have seen it coming, even though I think Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper might be better for this. The game does look good. Yeah, the game does look good, but I will say is I wonder how that's going to translate, because usually with the Lego games, you go into an episode and you get to the end of a level and you're done. But Horizon's typically like a more open world game. So how are we going to do this? Fighting the enemies looks a little bit more. It's a Lego game, so it's not going to be as dire
Dramatic.
or as stressful, dramatic as it is in the Horizon games. So it's a lot more cartoony. I don't know how well that translates. But I will say the scenes with the tall necks in the background when Aloy and I guess was it Varl who was in the trailer with her, or was it somebody else?
Yeah, I would say probably Varl.
Those were really nice scenes. So there are scenes in this game that I'm like, man, that looks really cool. So yeah, I'm not completely sold on it, but it does look like a good game. I just got to see how everything translates over, because I do love Horizon, and even if I'm not always sold on a Lego game, there are certain properties that can bring me over and convince me. So really, those were the two things I noticed the most with Rita's Revenge, or Rita's Rewind being probably the thing that I'm looking forward to the most.
So I'll say this about the Lego Horizon. If it follows the traditional plan of what Lego games are, I don't think it's going to be open world as the original games are. I think it's going to be level based. I think you're going to be able to build stuff on your points or during your boss fights that'll assist you with the boss fight. And it's going to be more linear than Horizon. I think that's the one thing that is going to separate it from. But yeah, it to me, definitely a purchase, because I love Horizon and I love Legos, as you can see. But beyond that, it'll be
the collector's edition of that game is going to come with a Lego set probably. It's probably going to be like $300.
Well, to your point, I really would like to be able to get a legitimate Lego Thunderjaw. I can go find my own creation Thunderjaw, and that's not an issue. But I would still really love an official render of a.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah, put it in a scene with the tall.
And they are. Yeah, well, within the game, when you watch the trailer, you will notice the cauldrons. The cauldrons are a thing in the Lego Horizon Adventures where you actually fight a Thunderjaw at the end. So some of those gameplay elements are coming over, from Horizon.
Yep. Yield, what are your thoughts on some of the items that were brought up during the Summer Games Fest?
So, Star Wars Outlaws was an automatic, basically an automatic for me. So I don't need to talk about that. Lego Horizon. I'm still kind of, I mean, I'll probably get it at some point. I don't know if it's a day one yet. I think they made Aloy too goofy. And then to me, that downgrades her character in a sense, because she's not goofy. And then in the Lego trailer, she's all goofy and, oh, you know, I'm just like, that's not Aloy. You know, I'd have been fine if it was anybody but Aloy. So I'm not down on the game. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. The one game I'm looking forward to and was really excited about, and I'm probably like one of the only people who is, I've been keeping my eye on this game since it like a teaser trailer was announced. Oh, I don't know, 5 years ago, was Black Myth Wukong.
Dude, he pulled that bow out from the side of his head or his ear or whatever, and then just grew.
I did not realize. I had heard whispers on the internet. I'd seen some stuff that the game was close to coming out, but that was it. It was just some whispers. And when I saw that it was launching in August, I was like, wait, is that the same game I've been keeping an eye on? Because there's been a couple of others that were close in title. And I'm like, oh, nope, yep. Because I have the trailer saved on my phone, so that way I can watch it occasionally to be like, oh, yeah, when's this game coming out? So that's the game that I'm looking forward to. I'll suck at it because I'm sure the combat will be way more than I can do, but the game looked so good back when I saw the trailer, like I said, 3 or 5 years ago. Like, they were like, this is an alpha or something. And I'm like, really? Because the game looked so good, you look like you could launch it now.
I'm going to admit, I literally thought the game was already out. I didn't realize it hadn't been released yet.
No.
All right. Darrell, what do you want to cover?
Are we counting Xbox's thing in Summer Game Fest? Or are we just strictly talking about Geoff Keighley?
Let's just do Geoff Keighley's, because today is very fresh and very, very still stuff coming out.
Yeah. Well, then I guess I'm just going to have to second what you guys are bringing up. I thought that the Power Rangers was a definite. The Lego was a definite. And then outside of that, I mean, it was a lot of okay stuff. I mean, Slitterhead would be the other like day one, but I chimed in as soon as you mentioned it earlier. So those would be the three at a Geoff Keighley show that I was like, absolutely.
Tricky did leave us some notes that, you know, he's going to be day one purchasing. He already has pre-ordered Star Wars Outlaw, so he is part of the problem. He does want to see more on Wukong. He is upset that Arkham Shadow is a VR game, not a normal game, but we've known that for a while.
Yep. That was a good trailer too.
Killer Bean, he says, looks really fun. I was confused as all hell watching that game. I could see the appeal in a cringe slash slapstick kind of way. I see what they're doing. I just don't think it's my style. He is also looking forward to the first Descendant. He played the beta. I was really looking forward to it. I do have that on my wish list on Steam. I've been keeping an eye on it. And then he's interested but needs to see more on Phantom Blade Zero, which is what the show closed out on, essentially. So, you know, there's a ton of games here. Definitely go take a look at them. We didn't mention most of them. You know, I didn't want to cover the games we know are being talked about, such as Star Wars Outlaws, things like that. You know, more interesting stuff is more Fatal Fury stuff is coming out, as well as Street Fighter 6. You know, and I mentioned that Blumhouse Games, you know, the creator, I think it was Five Nights at Freddy's and what else did he develop? Do you remember, Darrell?
They've done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, they've done a bunch of horror movies, so that's really, really cool. You know, and then, again, more stuff is coming out. There was the Xbox showcase today. There was also the PC game showcase, which I'm going to watch as soon as I'm done here. Dark and Darker, which is another, it's kind of starts off free, but it's a multiplayer dungeon crawler roguelike where you get to go into dungeons with your friends. Hyperlight Breaker, you might know previous game Hyperlight Drifter. So this is an early access game coming out. And as I mentioned, like I said, Monster Hunter Wilds, there was a trailer brought out and introduced some more monsters in the game that are coming out. And again, that's 2025, and we really don't know much else. But I think the other big announcement I forgot to mention, Civilization 7, and we actually got a message from Sid Meier himself, who I was pleasantly surprised to find out the guy's still alive. But Civ 7, huge turn-based town civilization building game you get to play with your friends. So that's going to be huge. Other than that, I really don't have anything else. Any of you guys have anything else that I missed or didn't talk about that you want to discuss?
Yeah, no, I mean, it just seems like outside of maybe Horizon, there weren't really a lot of like massive game announcements, like not that any of these games are bad or anything like that, but if you were looking for, and Xbox was doing their own showcase, but there weren't like a lot of heavy hitter names, like killer franchises, console sellers in this list. So again, we could all pick out a few games we want to play, but they're going to be lesser known games that, that could benefit from this kind of showcase that doesn't necessarily sell themselves. It's like, oh, a new, Batman adventure game is coming out, non-VR, that kind of sells itself. But, with these other games kind of, need a little bit more spotlight because it's like, oh, what the hell is this game? And gives you a chance to look at them.
A lot of the bangers, Alex, were on Xbox's conference today. Like they had arguably one of the best conferences I've seen in years. Now, will they come out? Who knows? But
whenever they come out.
And will you get a chance to play them on PlayStation? Will you get a chance to play them on PlayStation?
But it was still like when it comes to pound for pound presentation, just absolutely hit after hit after hit. And you can tell you want to know how you confirm what I'm saying is correct? Look at Tricky's comment in our chat.
Tricky's out there calling the Xbox presentation today hot garbage, and I don't think Tricky was watching the same presentation as we are.
No.
And then quickly follows up by their own PlayStation as well.
Yeah, well,
does that makes them better or worse? Because
does that make it better or worse? So that means PlayStation's got a bunch of hot garbage coming their way.
I'll go back to this and say, to Alex's comment, before Summer Games Fest presentation was made, Geoff Keighley did come out and say, listen, don't expect any huge surprises or massive announcements. These games are being announced. They've got stuff that's working. And we all kind of knew this was happening, was that PlayStation has already said, listen, no real huge first-person games coming out until 2025. Xbox we knew was coming up, and yeah, there are some games announced that are going to be making crossplay, but nowhere near what other people were saying. But I still think from a, to use Darrell's term, pound for pound, you're looking at some real game-ass games that were announced during Summer Games Fest. And Tricky's bombing chat was talking about how people were saying that a 30-second trailer cost the developers $250,000 to announce on Geoff Keighley's program. And however,
I saw that.
There is
ridiculous.
some truth to that. However, some things are saying he did prorate that for some of the smaller dev studios and the indie dev studios. So it did not cost the same thing, everybody. This is not the Super Bowl that you have to pay exorbitant amounts. But the bigger game studios, yeah, okay. That's what you got. That's part of your advertising. But
yeah, Sony can cover the cost for everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. So the point being is there was a lot of games announced at Summer Games Fest. And since E3 is no longer a thing, I think this is the next best thing we got. I sorely miss the time of sitting down and watching E3 and getting all the coverage. But in today's internet streaming service era, if I miss something, I have the ability to go back and watch it. Whereas back then, I'd really be missing out if I didn't watch every single waking moment of G4 TV. That said, I'm happy with what this year turned out to be so far. Alex, what do you think overall?
I mean, overall, I think you and Darrell both seem to have positive impressions of the Xbox, their showcase. Which, let's be real, they had to have a lot of positivity to that because there's been a lot of negativity around Microsoft for good reason. But they needed to, with all their acquisitions and everything, they had to bring the games. Like they had to showcase something really nice, and especially in light of the closings and the firings and everything. 2 rounds of it, and people worried that there might be a 3rd round. They had to bring it. And so like with the Summer Games Fest, like managing expectations is one of the best ways to prevent disappointment. And Geoff Keighley came out and saying, look, hey, this is what it's going to be. Don't expect anything crazy. That's the right thing to do. And so upon that, it's up to all of us to manage our expectations, So
They'll be back.
Lego Horizon's a big game, but you got a Power Ranger, different kinds of stuff. So hopefully, these games that were showcased and that needed the limelight, need a little bit of marketing, will get the love by the time they come out.
Okay. Yield, what are your final thoughts?
I did see a game that I forgot to mention, which me and my friends are keeping an eye on, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2. Yep. Because you can do 3-player co-op. And so we're all like, ooh, we're kind of keeping an eye on that because we're in the co-op mindset now. That's kind of where we've been the last couple of years. So if there's a game coming out that has a decent looking co-op, that we may all get it. That way we've got something to play together.
Okay. And Yield, it's cheaper than playing Warhammer Tabletop.
That is true too.
Darrell, your final thoughts on Summer Games Fest?
I thought it was fine. I think 6 out of 10, 7, me. I think it's probably more close to a 6. I wasn't in love.
Who are you, GameSpot? Giving everything 6 out of 10.
I could do the old Bret Hart 4 out of 10. But it was fine.
Goldberg.
Yeah, I'm not mad at it. So the way I look at it is like that old was it Aaron Greenberg said that like you're looking when you put on one of these events that you're trying to get like 3 items for everybody, and there was easily 3 items for me there. So it's a win. They did what they were supposed to do. They gave me. I've been looking forward to an update on Slitterhead for a while now. I mean that's the creators of Silent Hill making that game. And it looks weird. It looks really weird.
Intriguing. Like I can't tell if you're the alien or you're fighting the aliens or fighting monsters. Yeah. It's just weird, but it looks unique. The monsters look unique, and I'm all for it.
Have you ever seen that movie with Denzel Washington, Fallen?
Yes.
That's kind of what it reminded me of, how that little parasite thing was just skipping from person to person.
Dude, it's people.
I was like, the only thing it's missing is the song.
People are jumping off buildings and you're slittering to other people's heads. I'm like, but what happened to the guy that just jumped off the side?
Dead, dude. Yeah, exactly. That's the first thing I thought. I was like, bro, I can jump off a building and just die. Like, let this body hit the ground dead and jump into the other thing. So that was cool, and then Lego Horizon immediately, my oldest son and I were like, bro, we're playing that together. Like, I've been trying to beg this little nerd behind me to play Lego Ninjago with me because he's on a Ninjago kick. And he's just like, oh, Daddy, Lego games are boring. So, but my oldest was like, Dad, day one, we'll play it together. We'll co-op that Joker. So it was good. I mean, like I said, 6, I wasn't set on fire. I didn't set the world on fire, but I had a good time with it. 3 games for me. Let's go.
And that's what I'm saying. And my final thought is just that I enjoyed the show. I wasn't expecting anything because groundbreaking, because that's what Keighley said ahead of time. I wasn't happy with how much time they spent on Valorant and Honkai Star Retail. God, just trash games. Retail. Yeah, I call it retail because I keep messing it up, and I know it's Honkai Star Rail because I just think retail. It's trying to sell you shit. That's what it's trying to do. Yep. But I was happy with the games that were announced. I was happy with the breadth of games that they had available and actual seeing gameplay for a good amount of them. Some of them were still just only cinematics, and nothing's going to stop that. But I think so far a decent show all around, and I'm glad Keighley is keeping something in the spirit of E3 alive for all of us. So with that said, unless there's anything else that we have to cover, we're going to move on to shout outs. Darrell, we will go to your shout outs first.
Shout out to all the listeners. Thank you guys for putting up with our shenanigans. I hope I did a good job of not bringing up JR too many times, except for when it was relevant.
You brought him when it was justified.
When it was justified. There you go. I told you guys I wasn't going to come on. I'm done with that. That era is over. But I want to give a shout out to the Trophy Whores and Loot Bros communities. Shout out to the Resident Darrell YouTube channel. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers. I actually have our next video up right here that I should be editing right now. I think we're 1 or 2 videos away from hitting that 1,000, and then we're going to do some wild stuff. We got some really cool stuff planned. I'm super excited about it. But yeah, just that's me. I would say give a shout out to Tricky, usually my boy Tricky, but tonight Tricky was on. That man got off work and then tried to get in a Skype call to defend one of the worst games that have come out in the past decade, and that is Suicide Squad killed Rocksteady. So torpedo
Roboto.
Tricky.
Robato's in chat talking about needs more whatnot promos.
I was trying to behave. I didn't even say it. I didn't even say it one time. So speaking of, like, I got a bunch of wares behind me, a bunch of filthy reselling garbage behind me. So,
all right, Yield your shout out, sir.
Shout out to Darrell for filling in tonight. Shout out to Alex and Matt also for recording tonight. Shout out to all the pimps and the madams of the whoredom for downloading and listening and hanging out with us in our social media group. Shout out to Gareth for his trophy competition. Shout out to everybody who hung out in the Twitch chat tonight. And I twerp you to a summer cold.
I hope you're feeling better and even more soon.
Like I said, I feel way better than Friday. So I think I'm on the downhill side of it, but man, summer colds suck.
Yield, you need to stop licking all those door handles. Thought I told you about that.
But they're tasty.
I like the taste of metal too.
Well, with that, Alex, your shout outs.
Give a shout out to our awesome community, the listeners, the fuel to the fire, the Trophy Wars. Without you all, this podcast does not go. So thank you all very much for your continued support and pushing us forward on to episode 700. Give a shout out to Yield, to Darrell, and to Matt for recording tonight. Thank you all for spending your Sunday night with me. And then I guess I'll give a shout out to Tricky, who's just sitting there playing games in his house now. We all thought he was working, but I guess, he was only working part of the time. And trying to come in here mid podcast and make arguments. No, I kicked him out immediately. Like, no, we're not doing that. But yeah, hopefully Tricky will be back with us next week. Last but not least, give a shout out to my awesome living girlfriend, Ashley, who I enjoyed a nice day at the zoo with, seeing the new Red Panda exhibit and everything. So I love you, hon. And yeah, that's going to be my shout outs.
Awesome. Well, thank you, gents, for recording tonight. This was really good conversation overall. Some positives, some negatives. But anytime we get to talk about gaming, I really enjoy your time and company and discussion. Shout out to the community. Shout out to Roboto, who was in chat. Shout out to V, who was in chat. Shout out to Dan Tucker, who was lurking in chat. Shout out to all the bots that got kicked out because they were trying to whore out cheap viewers to us. Good job, Wisebot, getting rid of them.
Is that what happened to Joe? Is that what happened to Joe?
No.
Is that why Joe's not here?
Shout out to Joe, who Tricky silenced for 10 seconds because of Joe's anti-Ranger propaganda.
Joe's been on a hot streak for just real bad takes. I think somebody needs to check on Joe. He's been saying he's always had like a real bad opinion on a lot of things. But that man's out of pocket. Somebody needs to check on Joe.
Hey, man, he's your boy first. I'm just here.
Call your boy.
Call your boy. Shout out to the Channel 3 community. Make sure to check out channel3.gg to gamify your social media. Come on by. Play some mini games. Earn some XP. Get some loot. Yeah, Darrell's all about the loot, so he enjoys loot. And that's what we got over at Channel 3. Shout out to my wife, V. Thank you for everything you do on and off the show. And if there's nothing else, until next time, this has been episode 625 of the Trophy Whores. Happy trophy hunting.
See ya.
Animes for birds.
Later.
All hail Megatron.
Savior.